Salute, salute, salute. See how Watts pops back with another one. Just giving an update on a Lil Durk trial. Today, OTF Jams, OTF Vonnie was supposed to hit the stand and testify against Durk, which they didn't. Today they had the officer from yesterday still on the stand, and Brian Steele destroyed them. You know, Brian Steele, excuse my language, tore that man a new asshole. Pause.
Brian Steele gets up there and absolutely puts belt to yeah. Anyways, he say that the cop was on there basically got on August the 30th. The cop say, yeah, Brian Steele defines what he's supposed to know about the case and he's supposed to know everything. And dude like, yeah. So then the dude says, I'm a task force agent. I turned over all the stuff to the judge and then the feds picked it up. And then Brian Steele say, you spoke with Jim. Dude say, yeah. Brian Steele say, you were there 12 times with Jim. Dude say, yeah. He say, but I didn't ask any questions. Brian Steele like, but you spoke to him in custody. Dude like, yeah. Brian Steele like, y'all wrote notes and y'all recorded it 3 times out of the 12 times y'all met. Dude like, I don't know. They were 302 summary. 302 summary is basically that you have somebody that's recording all of this shit as far as writing it all down. There's a reason for that. We get into it in just a moment. Brian Steele say, well, why did y'all, have a recorder? Dude say, I don't know, there's a 302 summary. And Brian Steele say, so y'all take what the officer says, and then he say, yeah. And then basically Vonnie talked to him, no. Keith Jones talks to him basically 7 times and 1 time it's recorded. Then Brian Steele say, who said no recording? The cop says, the feds. Then Brian Steele basically say, so Vonnie met with y'all 10 times and no recording? The cop say, yeah. Brian Steele like, why y'all ain't record? Dude like, I don't know. Brian Steele say, is recording the best? Dude say this out his mouth. Yeah, he say, tell the jury basically what's the best method. The cops say, record it. So Brian Steele like, anything said if y'all made a deal against Durk, it wasn't recorded. The damn cop walked right into this shit. He say, we would have recorded it. It wasn't said. Brian Steele say, but how do we know? Dude gonna say, man, we write it all down. So then Brian Steele gets into it, and Brian Steele like, hey man, so y'all told these cats that when you cracked in the feds, bro, you're done. Ain't no, you get life, bro. Ain't no parole, ain't no nothing. It's straight life. Dude like, I didn't say that. It wasn't me. Brian Steele like, y'all said it was murder for hire, because Brian Steele is calling these cops teammates. Brian Steele know what he do. He's slick as goddamn oil spit. And Brian Steele say, the shooters want to get home at times and they make up stories, don't they? And dude like, yeah. I said, damn, Brian, getting it in right now. Brian Steele say, to approve or deny what's actual factual, like what's actually real has to be approved by y'all. The dude say, yeah. Then Brian Steele bring up, he like, hey man, so look, man, Durk is basically the big fish. And dude like, he ain't really said nothing. So then Brian Steele brings up that Jim said he called Lil Durk at 6:44 a.m. at 8:18, y'all know, the day before the killing and all that shit, that Thursday. And Jim like, I was with my son, I was with my kid, I was with my wife, and then, or my baby mama. And then Brian Steele like, did you research if he dropped his kid off, or did you research if anybody was in there? They was like, man, nah, we ain't letting that in. So the damn, the feds pop up and was like, nah, hell nah, we can't let that in. The cop did, the judge like, nah, that's not getting in, strike that. So,
you know what I'm saying? They went through all the messages, and the officer didn't know what none of the messages meant up until they got to the question of Durk saying, don't book any flights or anything in my name or using my name. And he said that right there was the indication of him knowing, conspiring in the murder of Lil Pup.
But Brian's still so crafty that, remember, what did the cops say? The cops say, oh, Durk said don't book no flights with my name on it. Oh, shit. Okay, cool. So then the government like, it's no foundation for that. The judge like, no, your cops said it. So then we find out that Durk was sending some messages to somebody who wasn't responding on 8/8/17, and he say, you still gonna post? They're like, nobody said anything. So then Durk texts, I'm gonna fall back from this. And he said all this shit, and the cop is basically like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means. And Brian still is walking him down, because if you don't know what none of these texts mean, but you know what don't book no fights in my name mean, there has to be a reason, right? So then Durk say, let's flip this real quick. Durk say, I'ma just fall back from this shit. And then Durk texts the person blood. And then the cops say, oh, that means blood means homie in Chicago. So then why did y'all name Lil Durk Blood and not everybody else Blood? So then Durk then text, don't book no fights, no names involved with me. And then the cop said, that means because he didn't want to be involved. That's why I said don't book it. And then Brian's still like, so James Smith is employed by Lil Durk. Cop like, yeah. Brian's still like, so he didn't listen? Cop like, nah, the fights was already booked when Durk said that. So then Brian still walks him down again. Brian still said, but you said Friday the fights were booked, right? Dude like, yeah. But then Brian still say, but they was booked again after Durk told him don't book no shit in my name. So if they was already purchased before, why did you book the damn fights? But then you sit around and you don't book them another way. So he didn't listen to none of the shit Durk said. So there's no way to know that dude even read these messages at all. At all. So then the dude say, I can only tell you what's sent by Durk. Brian still say, so why did he listen the second time? And dude flat out his mouth say, I don't know. And then we went to...
I feel like Durk got a lot of people going against him. And not even so much as a lot of people. Durk got like bloggers, Trap Boy Ross or something like that. He sound like he's a Durk hater. You know, every time you listen to his page, he's saying something bad about Durk, and it sounds like he's trying to paint a narrative for the feds, if you ask me. I'm just saying.
It was who Jay's wedding was. The detective said no. I'm not going to lie, I'm speculating possibly, just possibly, that this was coded language, and congratulations to Jay on the wedding was congratulations on the get back for honor. That's just a speculation. That could be the case. I don't know for sure, but I'm not going to lie. The government were like, no, we didn't look into no Jay's wedding. Now, obviously, they can't prove it. They're not going to bring attention to it. But the only conversation Durk's having with the guys that booked the hitman after the hit happened is make sure hey, congratulations to Jay on his wedding. I don't know about that one. I feel like that one was super sus. That was really the best that Brian Steele could do at that point. And look, it was a good...
He a cool dude, but it's just something about him and Durk. I don't, I can't put my finger on it. But from the way it looks right now, from what I see, Brian Steele, he did a real good job with cross-examining the officer. OTF Didi, his lawyer brought up the fact that Didi didn't send the message of Quando Rondo on the floor yelling no, and the actual murder of his cousin. He didn't send that message. Well, he sent the message, but he didn't make the post. The post was made from a fan page.
I know, Baker. I know. What was it at?
So there's a lot of different things that they're taking as far as the text messages and stuff, but it's still, to me, not tying Durk to the hit for hire. It's saying basically what everybody said, including Vonnie himself, that he is the mastermind behind this. If you ask me from my take of it and what I feel like Durk right now it's looking good. You know, we got a lot more time. We got a lot of more days, a lot of more evidence, a lot of more things to go through. But if we had to judge from right now, and I was on a jury, I would vote that Durk is not guilty.
Personally, if we're scoring this, Durk's team is up 1. Yesterday was more so a tie because at the end of the day, the feds were trudging along shit that they wanted to put in. I'd give the slight edge to Durk's team, but it wasn't like a blowout victory. But if the trial stopped today, in my opinion, Durk would be walking out of that courtroom. Now, other people, yeah, I ain't gonna be saying that one, but we get into it with a lot. But
you know, Vonnie, Jams, they already admitted to doing this murder. So, you know, as a stand, they are the people that did it. Vonnie is the mastermind behind it. And I feel like Durk is the fallback guy that everybody's using to put it on Durk. Because if not, then Vonnie has to take, you know, basically the mastermind in it. He orchestrated the hit. But I'm waiting till tomorrow. I'll have more news on it. I'm waiting to see what Jam and Vonnie say about Durk. Maybe tomorrow they'll get on the stand. But as it stands right now, Durk is looking real good right now. You know what I'm saying? I got Durk in the fourth quarter. I don't believe that Durk is going to lose this trial here. I believe they're going to try to make things look as bad as they can because that's their job. But these bloggers, salute to Seti Nash, man. Salute to Seti Nash because your boy Seti Nash, he be right on the money and he be talking some real spill. He be telling the truth. You know, Ross Boy, whatever his name is, he's something else, you know. I just don't feel like he's a Durk fan or he doesn't like Durk or something because he's always talking negative and putting a narrative as if Durk did this. But if you ask me, I would pay attention to Seti Nash, and he's definitely somebody I'll pay attention to if I'm going to watch this trial. I'm going to drop his link in the bottom. I need everybody to go check out Seti Nash and stay updated with him because he's keeping it 100. He's telling you play by play the real. But I'm going to leave a link inside the comments and inside the description.